Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Alestrals deck profile for you. I hope you are all ready to hop on Alestrals because I am coming at you with a Fives deck profile. Kind of can't believe I haven't covered this deck sooner, but good old Five Guys. We're definitely going to be talking about this deck here. Definitely one of the most successful tournament decks in the history of the game so far. So basically the idea here is that you're playing a bunch of really efficient one-spirit dudes that will often have 5 attack, and pairing it with just generally good counter runes, and using those to keep tempo of the game. Tempo meaning that your cards are trading favorably over your opponents while continuing to establish ongoing threats, right? So go ahead and just start off with our first couple of cards here. We got a playset of each Viscerus and Specterus. Wanted to start off with these for not only the meme, but also because these kind of really highlight what the 5 strategy is all about. So even though these cards are technically both 4/2s, they both each get +1 attack when they come into play initially, right? Making them 5/2s. The Viscerus, I mean, this card is just a monster, right? In any deck I've ever played it in. Earth Nexus, Wasp Ivy, and in 5s here. So the Viscerus, of course, is able to summon another copy of itself from the deck if it destroys an Alestral in battle. This also works if it crashes into an Alestral. So let's say you have just one of these out, and your opponent has a dude with 5 attack. Well, not Specterus, because it would suppress it, but you get what I mean. They would battle into each other, and you would get a Viscerus in defense mode. Like I said, Viscerus, a very scary card, and just a 1-card game ender by itself, too. It's very, very threatening. Your opponent will often have to go out of their way to make sure that it's dealt with, otherwise they will just inevitably lose to it. The Specterus doesn't offer quite as much board swarm, but with the ability to suppress anything it battles, that also is a very, very good ability, especially for a 5, right? So it can battle over stuff like Foamy and Campfell, and they won't get their on destroy effects. Same with like Hydrake or Hydrake. Yeah, Hydrake. I always hesitate on the card's name. They won't get those effects because Specterus suppresses them. Same for cards that buff themselves, like Rumicole. They will get their stat line, or Galaxy. You can battle into an attack mode Galaxy, and Specterus will swap it back to a 2/5 and then be able to punch over it. Specterus is, I love this as a 5 in general. It's just a great card. It's able to battle over so much. But, we're not a dedicated Earth Lunar deck here. We're not really dedicated to any one type in particular, necessarily. Now, we do actually incidentally play a lot of Water, because Water has a lot of good tools for us. We're playing a playset of Moose Station. This is a different deck than Crabs, although Crabs and 5s are extremely similar decks. You could even argue that Crabs and 5s are more or less the same deck. But playing a playset of Moose Station, because it's just a really efficient beater. Well, that's the thing that makes it so efficient. It can be a good solid defender, like on turn 1, you can easily throw this out in defense mode, or you can start battling with it and get aggressive with it. It's very, very easy to play both roles of this card, and it pairs well with another 5 that we're playing, which is Galaxy. So Galaxy is technically a 2/5, but it's also a 5 attacker, because of course it swaps the stats. Like I said, plays with Boostation well, because it can swap Boostation's stats, not having to expend water in order to be able to do that. We're playing 3 more Water Alestrals. It's going to be a playset of Eddy. Now, I will say that the Eddy doesn't really play as well with the Galaxy because it becomes a 1/4, but Eddy is just a fantastic stand-alone Alestral. Like I said, this really is a tempo deck at its core, and Eddy, as I've said in videos before, really is just the definition of tempo within Alestrals, right? Again, tempo being the idea that we are very efficiently not only removing our opponent's threats, but establishing our own threats in as few plays as possible. Eddy is the epitome of that. It comes down, it switches something to defense mode, it punches over it, and then now you still have a 4/1, which is a pretty solid stat line, of 4 attack Alestral in attack mode there. So, even though, again, Eddy does kind of conflict with Galaxy, I still think that playing a playset of this is super valuable. Let's see here. We've got a playset of Astrabbit, because it's an Alestral deck, and it's also a 5, so it's on theme. And then Lavalith is going to be our 19th and final Alestral for the deck. It's our only fire card because, again, we're just really looking to play the best and most efficient cards in the game in this deck, and Lavalith absolutely fits that bill. So like I said, 19 Alestrals there. For our runes, Invokes, we have a couple of copies of Cryoblast, as well as Earthquake. Just really efficient one-for-one removal there. Playset of Ambro. It's an Alestrals deck. So I'm playing 2 Nectar of the Gods. Even though we're not really a very combo-based deck, but I actually think it's kind of fine to play Nog in a non-combo deck like this, where we're spending minimal runes to make plays. It means that spending 2 to draw 2 is kind of less detrimental. The other idea of playing Nog in a deck like this, again, even though we're not particularly combo-based, is that the idea is that all of our cards are individually good, right? Ideally, I mean, really the idea behind this deck is that you can never open a bad hand because we're just playing 40 good cards. And since we're playing 40 good cards that are all often 1 spirits, it kind of makes sense to play Nog because that'll let you, draw 2 cards, it'll get you up, and it'll get you, more good stuff. I will say, though, the one thing I'm a little hesitant on this with this card is that it is kind of expensive in a deck that doesn't normally play very expensive stuff. Honestly, I kind of put these in here because I didn't really have anything else to play. I didn't want to play more Alestrals. I didn't want my Alestral count to get higher necessarily. There also weren't many Alestrals I was excited about putting in the deck. Same with counters and, yeah, Invoke runes, honestly. So Nog is also kind of just filler, I'm not going to lie, but it's pretty good filler, so I don't mind it. And then resting on your laurels, it's pretty obvious stuff. And then for counters, we've got 3 Tsunami, 3 Gorgon's Gaze, 3 PTA, and 3 Shield of Achilles. So you can see why I didn't want to play more counters. It's like, we're already playing 12 and already just kind of playing the best ones, so. Alright, that's the main deck. For the Spirit deck, every time I almost call it the extra deck. I think I might have in one video, but it's kind of funny there. So for the, my Spirit deck is all out of order here. I'm going to have to rearrange that real quick. We'll actually just kind of go piece by piece here. So I'm only on 1 Flare Mine because we're only playing the 2 Cryoblasts, or only Frost cards there. 2 Vipyro for exactly the Lavalith there. Next up we have actually 4 Earth, because we do have the Viscerus in addition to the Earthquake. I think 4 is kind of the perfect amount for that. Oh yes, and then I forgot we have 2 Lunar for our 2 Specteris as well. That leaves 3 Zaptor for the Astrabit, and the remaining 8 are going to be Water. So, pretty self-explanatory spread here. I think it's also a very nice spread. I don't have too few or too much of any one thing in particular. I think that it's funny because, like, we're playing a ton of different spirit types. Like, we have, 6 different spirit types in our deck. But that said, I feel like our spirit math here is actually quite simple. So, yeah, that is going to be the list. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of this gameplay that we've got here for you. Okay, so let's take a look at these games against Queso. It's kind of a 5s mirror. Queso's on the Camel 5s list, but we are on more of our own kind of like traditional blend, I guess. Traditional blend. Making it sound like a sauce or something. I didn't really take this 5s list, the one that I built, from any one, list in particular. I just kind of threw a bunch of good cards in one deck. So, Queso's going to lead off with the Nectar of the Gods. Going to set a card after that. And let's see what kind of Alestral comes down on turn 1 here. Yeah, the Camel 5s, I almost did play that instead of like this regular quote-unquote 5s deck, but I wanted to start with this one first. That's not to say I won't play the Camel 5s deck. I want to play a deck with Camphel in it soon either way. Maybe another Solar deck, who knows. Alright, so Specteris is going to come down alongside the Face Down. Then Queso's going to pass back over to me. So, yep, we are going to lead off with an Eddy here, I believe. Yep, so we're going to use Edward to threaten the Specteris. Queso's got a poison-tipped arrow, so that's not going to negate the Eddy effect, but it will make Eddy a 2/1, which means it cannot battle over the 2 defense Specterus. We have a Cryoblast in hand, though, so we'll just go ahead and use that. I did also have like a more proactive Alestral in my hand. Like I think it was maybe a Galaxy or something, or it might have been my own Specterus that I could have potentially used. But in this situation, I wanted to start with Eddie, because Eddie's really good in this particular spot. As mentioned before, tempo is the name of the game here, and Eddie is a huge tempo swing with pushing the Specterus to defense mode and battling over it. But that's why, again, I didn't mind using Eddie, because even if it was like Gorgon's Gaze or PTA, we still had the... what's it called? We had the Cryoblast, of course, the card we used. So here I PTA'd the Camel, but like I said, I do have a Specterus in my hand, so I do think this was a misplay. I should have just let the Camel swing in for 1, and then definitely just battled over it with Specterus to negate it. As it stands, when the Camel's destroyed, Queso's going to get all of those spirits back. But I do have other Alestrals in my hand that I can develop besides the Specterus. And here we get a Nog, so that's going to give us even more options. But again, I do think that was a misplay. That was not a good PTA at all. I will freely admit that. Alright, spinning Water and Thunder. And let's see. Gonna set a card, and is it Galaxy? No, it's a Mustation. Yeah, getting Mustation in attack mode in is great here because there's no Alestrals on Queso's board. I don't have to expend water to, get in. So developing the attack here is fantastic. And of course, when Queso normal casts, I can simply expend water to make my Mustation a 6/1. Alright, so that Nog gonna draw a couple more cards for Queso here. We're both nogging it up. Yeah, Nog makes more sense in Camel 5s, I feel like, than in my build, because, of course, the Cafmel can just get it back. I think it's another Specterus there? Yeah, it looks like that's another Specterus, so... That does, of course, threaten the Mustation. Actually, I'm pretty sure it would swap the stats back, right? Is Mustation like a continuous effect, like a Galaxy, but only for the turn? I'm actually not sure what that rolling is off the top of my head, but... Either way, I just kind of assumed the Specterus would win the fight here even if I expended. So I didn't expend, and instead I'm going to use a Tsunami to put the Specterus in defense mode. Going to go for Viscerus. Let's try to develop that here. I'm also going to expend here to swap in case there's a Shield or it does end up being a Tsunami here. I thought it was going to be Shield of Achilles, but Tsunami definitely also makes me glad that I expended for the Mustation there. Of course, if the Viscerus had gone through, it wouldn't have been necessary, but better safe than sorry. Alright, so it looks like this is going to be an Earthquake. Probably going to be on the Mustation, yep. So just got my 2 defense Viscerus out here, my 5/2 Vis. I think this is going to be a Viscerus from Queso here as well. That's exactly what it is. But we do have a response at some point here. I'm getting a Spirit count. I think I was at 9, I saw there briefly. I've been thinking about taking a big D20 and, using it for these games to better represent my spirits. But at the same time, I don't want that to interrupt gameplay. So, I'm kind of, debating back in my head about that. Back and forth in my head, rather. Shield of Achilles. I think that's what both of my face-down cards are in here. Going to Shield, bounce the Vis back to Queso's hand. Thankfully, no back row from him, which is very nice. Not having to deal with that in this situation in particular. Yeah, here we can go for an Astrabbit in attack mode, especially since I believe, have another Shield face down. I'm not really threatened, or not scared by it threatening to get battled over here, so... We'll pick up a card, put it in our hand among the top 3, and then... Let's see what we got here. Gonna turn the Vis to attack mode. And swing in for 2. Queso's got 4, soon to be 5 cards in hand. Spending some more solar. Right, other possible 5s that could come down from Queso are Lumaru, Galaxy we haven't seen yet. Of course, there's more copies of other stuff we have seen, like Specterus and the Camel. Well, Camel's not a 5, but you know what I mean. I'm trying to think of what would be the worst thing for me to see here. I don't know if that deck plays Lavalith or not, actually, off the top of my head. Lavalith would be pretty devastating here, though. getting to pop my face down and battle over a Vis. Lumaru coming down in this case. Threatens to battle over the Astrabit. And I do have that shield face down, but at the same time, I decided to just let it go through here. Because it's a difference between spending 2 to bounce the Lumaru. Like, I don't know. The Astrabit's kind of already served its purpose in this regard. Oh yeah, and then I have to mill 3. I accidentally drew the Gorgons before milling 3 here. Like shielding the Viscerus is definitely much more worthwhile because it stops more Viscerus from coming down. But as far as like Lumaru, it's a little bit of a, I don't know, it's like more of a toss-up. So, all right. We are hopping on Alestrals with both the Specterus and the Viscerus on board. I'm even doing the finger point of like, look, it's the meme, look, it's the meme. Gonna use an Ambrosia here, spending a water to put back some spirits. A couple of water, and then I definitely want an earth. Yep, because I'm gonna... Basically, the plan here is to run my Viscerus into the Lumaru, which will still get me a Viscerus from my deck, and then I can swing in with Specterus. So... this way I don't have to use any like removal or anything like that to get rid of this Lumaru here. It's like I said, all about efficiency when it comes to this deck. Now here I was trying to figure out exactly how the chains would play out. Since I'm turn player, I'm pretty sure it works the same way as Yu-Gi-Oh! Since I'm turn player, my Viscerus is Chainlink 1. That makes Lumaru Chainlink 2, which means I mill, and then I get to summon from Vis, which could matter. I guess both other Vis could be in the top 3, but it's Laurel's Galaxy instead, so you get to throw out the Viscerus in defense mode. And then, of course, after that, we get to swing in with the Specterus, dealing 1. Alright, still got that face down Shield of Achilles, and I mean with that down there, I'm still feeling very good, you know. And again, this is a part of the essence of what it means to play a 5s deck. I have very solid cards that each can individually threaten in different ways on their own, and then that paired with the invokes and counters as that offer efficient removal just makes a difficult board state to be able to power through. Here comes that Viscerus again, and once again I am going to Shield of Achilles. Makes me glad I didn't shield the Lumaru. Like, I think a lot of players would have shielded the Lumaru there, giving up on Lavwith, by the way, sending the Vipyros off that shield. I think a lot of players would have shielded the Lumaru on that attack, but over the Astrabit. But again, I just didn't find it threatening. I knew I could crash with the Vis and still keep other Vis out, and I also knew that Queso's Viscerus was still going to threaten. So, summoning a Galaxy and getting to swing in for 3. We truly are on 5 guys here. Well, we have 3 on the board, but but they all have 5 attacks, so Queso's last spirit can be used for an Ambro, putting him at 3. Well, no, I think it's more than that, right? Oh, no, that's just his, okay. Yeah, that's his, all of his spirits, and he was, I see. Okay, so yeah, it is going to put him at 3. But I mean, you know, even if that Viscerus comes down here, it's like, that's going to cost a spirit. If it casts another Vis, that'll cost another. That'll put him at 1, and I'll still have 2 bodies on board. And it's going to be a Camel. Oh, but then, yeah, Queso's realizing here that I can just use the Specterus to swing over the Camel and then deny the heal. Which would then allow me to swing in with the Galaxy and Viscerus for the other 2, and that would put him at 0 right then and there. So, yeah, unfortunately, Camel in this spot doesn't really do it. Yeah, I think he's going to have to do the more proactive play of going for his Viscerus and battling and then summoning 1 in defense mode. I mean, I'm decently low myself. I'm at, like, it's like 3 or less spirits at this point. Might even only be 1. So, yep, here's the Earth, and there is indeed going to be the Viscerus. Oh, and the Poison Tunic, that's right. Last 2 spirits going to be Poison Tunic. So that'll be... So yeah, I have 3 left. So yeah, Vis battles over mine, and I have to get rid of 2 here. But then I can simply crash and then swing in for lethal here, so... Yeah, this wasn't any amount of math that was going to do it there. So that'll be it for Game 1. Very nice back and forth, as all games with Queso tend to be. All right, so let's go ahead and check out this next game here. Going into game 2, Case is going to be taking the first turn. Actually, you know what I will say? Even though the perception of 5 sometimes can be that it's a bit boring, because it's just playing all the best cards, I did have quite a bit of fun playing this deck, and Crabs, you know, last week as well. So, well, I guess it'll probably be about last week. I don't know. Last week in terms of when we recorded. I don't know in terms of like when these videos go out. So, okay, so we're going to expend to draw set 2 pass. I'm going to go for Galaxy set 2 myself and then swing in. I've mentioned this before, but it might look weird to keep a hand that then expends to draw on turn 1, but there are definitely such cases where that is the right call. Many such cases, in fact. Okay, so let's see what Queso has here. Yeah, I mean, the Galaxy is just so good because it threatens so many different, like, individual Alestrals as well as, you know, whole water decks. But, like, you know, if Queso was sitting on an Eddy here, for example, Eddy would not be enough to do it. So what Queso's actually going to end up doing is playing his own Galaxy in defense mode. So when 2 Galaxies are in play, they effectively cancel each other out. Now both are 2/5s, which again is why he played his in defense mode, because now it's a 5 defender. But yeah, like Eddy wouldn't do it doesn't do it against the Galaxy. Because yeah, Eddy switches the Galaxy to defense mode, and the Galaxy has 2 defense, but the Galaxy swaps Eddy to being a 1/4, and then Eddy can't battle over it. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Galaxy, honestly. It sucks because it's like one of it's one of, if not just the best water Lestrals. Well, Eddy's probably just the best. But that's why I say one if not the best. But it also just ruins water v water matchups, which is unfortunate. So gonna go for Specteris. Queso's gonna go for the PTA on it, but I can still swing into the Galaxy here, and that'll suppress. So again, the Galaxies are 2/5s. Because, you know, there's 2 in play. So the Specteris suppresses the one that is battling into. That means my 1 goes back into effect, and now they're 5/2s again. So the Specteris can battle over, because even though it lost 2 attack with the PTA, it's still battling in with 3 attack. Specteris is just a nasty card. There are so many game states where Specteris, I mean, we've seen it against the Camel, now we've seen it against the Galaxy. Specteris can just swing in so well against so many different things. Okay, Queso is going to use a Gorgon's Gaze on my Galaxy, which is going to make it a 2/5 again. And after that, is this a Viscerus? This is, in fact, going to be a Vis. Alright. So, attempting to battle over. I'm going to do a Shield of Achilles here. Yeah, in this matchup, Viscerus is definitely one of the main things I'm looking to Shield of Achilles. Shield of Achilles, sometimes you do have to be a little bit picky. I mean, just like in that last game, when we didn't use it against Lumaru. But, like, it's not ideal to shield stuff like Eddy that has stuff on, like, normal cast, you know, effects. Definitely don't want to do on, like, stuff like Quackle and that kind of a thing, too. Even receivers, you gotta be a little bit careful. So, I'm gonna cast a Viscerus of my own. Attempt to swing in with the Galaxy. And then the Viscerus as well. And then now it is going to be Queso's turn. Take a sip of my water here. I think Queso just set a face down card. Yep, and is going for that Viscerus again. Good old Vis. So Viscerus is trying to crash here. I imagine into the Galaxy, because if we crash Vis's, we both just get 1 in defense mode. Yeah, so here I'm going to Battle Step Gorgon's Gaze. Now, there's a difference between Attack Step and Battle Step. Attack Step Gorgon's Gaze will stop the attack declaration altogether, but Battle Step comes after Attack Step, and at that point, during the Battle Step, declarations cannot be stopped. So that's when you want a Gorgon's Gaze if you're trying to, like, lock the attack in, but still negate/suppress an effect. Going to Nog it up here for a couple of cards. Gonna spend water and just figuring out what else I want to spend here. was one of the things I was kind of debating was spending the fires, and I actually did decide to do it here, because I figured, like, I'm already pretty decently well ahead on board. Like, I already knew I had another back row to set, and I've got multiple Alestrals in play, so I'm at a point where I'm comfortable giving up the fires. Plus, we're still also early enough in the game that I can still pretty reliably hope to see Ambro at some point. I might even have it in my hand already. I just don't remember. But we can pretty reasonably expect to see Ambro at some point. So, like, the natural inclination a lot of the time is to only give up on something like Earthquake or Lavalith by spending its specific spirits like later in the game when you know for sure you're probably not going to draw it because there's only a couple of turns left. But although this might be a bit counterintuitive, sometimes it's still better to use them a little bit earlier like this, where you're in a board state where you're not expecting to use the card soon, but you still give yourself time to find an Ambrosia. Well, actually, I caught a glimpse of it. I did actually see it in my hand, so that was another reason why I was comfortable using the 2 fire for the Nog there. Can I attempt to swing over the Camel with the Vis? But that's going to get tsunami'd. So we'll just battle over it with the Galaxy. It's like, yeah, by battling over, we are just giving Queso the spirits back. But, you know, at the same time, I don't really... Because it's the thing, right? You can't just not battle over the Camel here. Because you're trying to avoid spirits being given. Well, Queso could always just ascend, and that would give him the 3 spirits back anyway, right? So, even that factor aside, just getting bodies off the board, I think there comes a point in the game where you have to pay attention to spirit differential versus board differential. Are you playing for the board to try to get ahead there, or are you just trying to turbo focus on getting your opponent down to 0 spirits? And you know, when you're playing for the board, then running over like a Camfell is like completely fine. Here I'm going to PTA the Viscerus. Even though it can still battle over my defense mode Vis, at least we won't have to deal with this attack mode one. And then Queso's defense mode one shouldn't be too terribly difficult to deal with here. That is actually... You know, it's funny because I'm used to that concept especially when I played Hearthstone. Oh my god, playing for damage versus playing for the board came up so much in that game. I haven't really thought about that concept much relative to Alestrals before now, but it is very, very relevant. Yeah, I would love to explore that idea in this game a lot more. Because like I said, it was so fundamental for Hearthstone. It's been so long since I've played Hearthstone. It's just been a while since I've tapped into that specific pool of knowledge, and I just felt that happen just now in my brain, you know, resurfacing that info. Anyway, I have a Cryoblast here. That was likely another reason why I was fine with the Vis, is I just had that in my hand. So, getting to Ambrosia here as well. Gonna spend a water, and let's see what we end up putting back. You'll notice I'm not reaching for, like, the Flare Mine right away, because one thing you might maybe wonder to yourself is, like, oh, but you have the other Cryoblasts in deck. Wouldn't you immediately want to put back the Frost to make sure it's going to be alive? Again, you know, I'm not really playing for the Cryoblast at this point. I'm not really in a board state where I think I'm going to need it. So, you'll notice I put back a Lunar in addition to 2 water there, and cast a Specteris. If you've been keeping, like, really close track of my Spirit usage, I do still have a second Lunar in my Spirit deck. That's because I do have another Specteris in my hand. Galaxy getting shielded there. So that is a case where I will play for a very specific Spirit, right? Because I only played 2 Lunar, and I already used 1 for a Specteris earlier. I don't want to disenchant one of the Specterises. I want them both to be live. So went out of my way to put back another Lunar in that case, or a Lunar in that case. Right, another Ambro from Queso there, as well as a back row. Believe we're expending to draw here. Yeah, I think Queso's only got that 1 card that he just drew in hand. Yep, so. Alright, gonna recast my Galaxy here. And definitely want to do that because it plays around Tsunami. God, this is just one of those games where I had like 2 face down cards at like any given point during this game. Sometimes there's just games like that in Alestrals where like your opponent just always has all of the back row. It can be very frustrating when people draw well like that. Me being the people here, the person. Yeah, so Case was at 0. I did notice that one of my face downs was PTA, which of course I could have used here. It would have stopped the Camel from being able to battle into the Specterus. But again, I have another Specterus in my hand, and I already have that Lunar that I put back. So, yep, I'm well prepared for this situation. We can simply battle over the Camel and then swing in with the Galaxy, and that is going to end up being lethal here. So that is going to do it for these games. Well played as always, Queso, and thank you all very much for watching. Been pumping out these deck profiles every other day, well, Elestrals videos in general, so if you're interested, definitely feel free to subscribe for some more Elestrals content, as well as other card games. But that'll do it for this one. This is Hexlex. I am signing out, and hoping you have a fantastic day.